Hey, I'm Skeletor, and this is what happened in October.
Shout out to my man Skeletor. Thank you so much for that intro, bro. You're the best. So let's jump into the latest and greatest in WoW, Legion Remix. I talked about it last month and I've been talking about it on stream that I was pretty pessimistic going into it. I was not very excited, and now having played it for a few weeks, I love it. My thoughts are going to be all over the place, and if you happen to hear any banging, it's just because they're doing construction nearby. My biggest concern was with the artifact. I was not looking forward to having to unlock every single skill that was in there, and I was pleasantly surprised when I found out that you only have to unlock one row and then you just start working on infinite power, and you can just very easily switch to whichever other row if you wanted to. That immediately increased my enjoyment of Remix because even with the expedited gains and all that, I still thought getting everything was going to take forever. And I just thought back to the original Legion with all the artifact power we had to get, and I just was not looking forward to that. And I'm so glad that that's not how they did it this time around. I also really like how they did gear upgrades this time around. I like that you're not having to upgrade with a currency, you're just getting stuff from boxes. There's just a nice dopamine hit every single time you open a box or when you do the daily quest to get a piece of jewelry, knowing that you're always going to get an upgrade. Or even when you don't get an upgrade, especially once you start getting higher item level and like the green boxes just start giving you stuff that is far below your item level, you still get the motes of a broken time, which are the things that you get 10 of, and then that gives you an upgrade. So even those green chests that are not giving you upgrades directly, they're still giving you an upgrade, and all of it is just a dopamine hit, and I love it so much. I wish there was something where, like, just once a day, there was, like, a big increase in item level that you could get for a piece of gear. Because right now, it's, like, 6 or whatever item levels you get from every chest that you open. Once a day, you could get just, like, a 10 to 20 item level increase on a random piece of gear. It wouldn't get anyone super geared super quick, but it would just be an extra way to just feel like you're progressing a little bit faster in the game. The infinite research quests are nice. There are kind of a lot of them, and it does feel a little bit overwhelming. Like, sometimes I notice that I'm just doing infinite research pretty much the entire time that I'm playing the game, and then I finish all the ones that I need to, and then I'm just kind of burnt out. I don't want to do anything else, so I log off. So all I did was just infinite research. But they do give epic chests for the gear upgrades, as well as the 1% XP increase, which I wish that was more as well, like just a chance to have like a 5 to 10% increase, because just 1% is not great. It does stack up, and especially if you have alts and stuff, it will stack up quicker, but I just wish it was more. Speaking of alts also, I know that there's a 200% experience bonus that you get at level 70, which I'm understanding is just for that specific character. I wish that also was a account-wide unlock that you do just once. So that way every alt now has 200% experience bonus because you got one level 80. But with my alts, I actually wasn't planning on doing a whole lot. I thought maybe 1 or 2 characters is what I would make. But then I saw that there's an achievement to get all the classes to level 80. There's also an achievement to do all the class order hall campaigns, as well as an achievement to not die in Trial of Valor with the specific sets of classes. So I guess because I like achievements, I'm going to try to do all of those. I don't need any more, but I'm going to have plenty of alts. The first character I made, I haven't talked about that yet, is a Demon Hunter. I made him a Vengeance Demon Hunter for tanking, which I thought was going to be great because like in MoP, it'd have quick queues, but turns out that tanking in Legion, you're just getting like 15-minute queues, so that sucks. But I made that Demon Hunter because I wanted one for the 3rd spec when it comes out in midnight, so I can play around with that and see how that feels. And then I guess I'll have 1 extra of every class, which is going to be a lot because I'll have now 6 Shamans, which is a lot. I have 2 characters for every spec for a Shaman. But I guess having more level 80s never hurts, and it just makes me laugh every time I think, like 10 years ago, the thought of having more than like 2 or 3 level 80s just blew my mind, and now I have, after this, I'll probably have, I think, 25 or something like that. But on that Demon Hunter, I finished off all of Azuna, and I'm slowly working through Suramar. It's just so long. I think everyone's talked about this. I've done all the side quests. I think I have like half of the campaign left, and it just is a slog. I'm going to do Stormheim and High Mountain on my alts because one mistake that I made in MoP Remix was that on my first character, my warrior, I went and did all of the zones, and then when I leveled my first couple alts before I found out about the mailbox trick, I just felt just bored because I'd already done all the quests in these zones, so I was just doing them again. So if I'm making alts anyway, may as well just focus on different zones and kind of freshen up the experience so I'm not just doing the same thing over and over again every time I level. I doubt I'll be gearing them up very much, these alts, but I probably will just get enough gear to be able to not die in Mythic Trial of Valor just so I can get that specific achievement. And then just gear them enough so I can get through the campaign quests. On that Demon Hunter also, I've done most of the dungeons on Heroic. I've done none of them on Mythic or Mythic Plus yet. I'm kind of anxious to do Mythic Plus because I've never tanked a Mythic Plus before. So in MoP Remix, I kind of got over that anxiety of tanking in general, and I think now is a good time to get over that anxiety of tanking a Mythic Plus. I've also done Emerald Nightmare and Trial of Valor on Mythic, and I did not die in Trial of Valor, so I've got one of those armor sets unlocked. One thing I forgot how much I hated was the people that get invited and immediately ask for a summon. Like, the group has 5 people in it, and they're just sitting in Dalaran, like just fly, dude! One thing actually also related to raids is that I initially was very turned off on the idea of them doing a staggered release of this, not just releasing everything all at once like they did with MoP. But as a casual player, and as someone who, there's just been stuff outside of WoW that's been kind of getting my attention lately that I've been really enjoying doing. So I'll get maybe like an hour a day, if that, or most of the time it's like the most time I play is on the weekend for a few hours. I don't feel as far behind as I would have if they had released everything all at once. One other thing I love that they added is the Nostwin's Voucher, which is that thing that ports you to Dalaran and then you have an hour to port back to exactly where you were before. That's a fantastic quality of life change, and I'm so glad they added that. So I wanted to shout that out because that is a just great change. One of the things I was doing the first week that Legion came out on stream was I was trying to see if I could get anywhere else in the world. I was actually able to fly all the way from Orgrimmar to the sword in Silithus. And as I entered the zone, I got teleported back to Dalaran. I managed to catch a Zeppelin to Northrend, and I dropped down to the Nexus, saw the Wrath of the Lich King loading screen, and then I saw the Legion loading screen, and I thought, oh my god, they thought of everything. Why can't I break it? So that was fun. I really enjoyed that, and I wonder if there is something that I can do that I shouldn't be able to do. So maybe on stream again, I'll try to find something, but it seems like they thought ahead. But overall, I have been enjoying Remix. I've actually been playing it a whole lot more than I expected to, and I've actually been playing it a whole lot more than Retail, which I'll talk about Retail a little bit right now. So my Warrior got 2 more item levels, so he's ending the month at 714.4. I got a couple more Mythic pieces from my vaults, nothing to write home about. I'm only doing a couple of Heroic Manaforge bosses per week, and I'm not really running a lot of Mythic Plus lately, and I really am not feeling like running more T11 delves, so my upgrade speed has slowed down, so just slowly upgrading the stuff that I do have. On my Hunter, I finally used up a lot of Conquest, so I was able to go from 647.5 to an item level of 661.5. Horde has been very engaged with the war crates this season, which is kind of frustrating because it's been very hard to get Conquest from them. So I think I have like 4 more pieces on him before I get the achievement to unlock the entire Season 3 set. Going back to Mythic Plus, I was able to do a few 10s. I still need Arakara, Gambit, and Floodgate to have 10s in all the dungeons this season. I was able to get 45 more ratings, so I'm ending the month of October at a rating of 2420. It's been really hard to get into a group as well, and it sucks because like I wish I could be in Remix while I'm also queuing for dungeons, because like I'll sit there queuing for dungeons as a DPS for like 15-20 minutes. I'm like, I just want to actually play the game, so I'll log off and go do something else. I still would like to finish off those last 3 dungeons at least, just so I have 10s and everything, but that is just gonna be hard. And then for professions this month, I spent actually a lot of time working on them. I only have engineering in Kazelgar left to do, and then I've got all of the War Within professions at max level. I messed up though because I forgot that engineering needed ore, so after I finished blacksmithing, I sold off all my ores and I logged into my engineer and realized, oh, I still needed so many of those. So a lot of the gold that I got from those sales, I just had to rebuy like bismuth again. Going to the achievements for the month, I only got 30 more points, so I'm ending it at 47,740. I didn't get a lot of points, but I did get a decent amount of achievements, just a lot of them were from Remix, so no points. With Remix, I'm at 87 achievements done out of 245, so still quite a ways to go, but I think by the time I do my November video, I'll have most, if not all of them done, outside of probably leveling all of the classes to 80 and probably all of the Order Hall campaigns, but I think everything else should be doable in the next month. In Retail, I finally opened 500 Bountiful Chests in Delves, as well as got Brand to level 100. I think I'm tapping out on Delves this expansion. I'm all delved out. I just am not liking them a whole lot. They're just very tedious, and so I'm going to take a break until midnight. I might do a couple here and there, but I've done over 600 Delves at this point, and I'm good for now. I got the achievement to get all the appearances for the Season 3 Delve mount, and then I went back to Valdrakken from Dragonflight, and I bought the Season 1 and 2 PvP sets from Selthorex. Those are now purchasable, so I was able to get a couple more achievements there. For mounts, there were a bunch, so I'm not going to go over all of them. I was able to get all 12 Fel class mounts for 20,000 bronze each, and then all of the 10,000 mounts you can buy so far before Nighthold comes out. My favorites from those are the Felscorned Warworm for Warriors, the Vilebrood Vanquisher for Death Knights, the Netherlord's Dreadsteed for Warlocks, the Gloomdark Nightmare, and the Golden Sunrunner. For getting rank 8 with Manaforge Vandals, I got the Vandal Gear Glider. I bought the Headless Horseman's Hollowed Charger for 700 tendies. And then I got the Legion Forged Elec for the monthly trading post reward, which I think it looks awesome. I really love the colors on this mount. I saw someone on Reddit say they should have called this the Phallic, and that's just a missed opportunity there by Blizzard.
In other news,
I watched a show called Agatha All Along, which is in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it is a sequel to WandaVision to an extent. It's about Agatha the Witch and the journey on the Witch's Road, and I really enjoyed it. Like, the first episode was kind of whack, but it makes sense as to why it was, and then every episode after that, I just was enthralled more and more with each episode. It was fantastic. I watched Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, which was pretty good. It was kind of scatterbrained the first half of it, and then they finally felt like they got their footing. There was a long underwater scene that just filled me with so much dread and anxiety. And when it was over, I realized I took like 4 breaths for the entirety of that like 20 or 30 minutes excursion. I also watched the F1 movie, which was very, very good. I don't watch races in real life, but I like Brad Pitt. This seemed pretty good, and it was just so good. I was immediately enthralled in this movie, and I just completely lost myself in it. The driving sequences were just phenomenal. I felt like I was legitimately driving the car and I was in it. It was just so well done. And then lastly, I read a book called Armada, which is by Ernest Cline, who is the author of Ready Player 1 and 2. It is kind of an extraterrestrial book. The world is being invaded by aliens, and we don't really know whether or not the story we're being given is correct. And the citizens of Earth have to defend their planet using the skills that they never knew that they were being trained for. That's kind of the best non-spoiler way I can describe this. But it was very good, especially like the interpersonal relationships with these people. I was far more interested in certain dialogue that was taking place than I was the actual action of the book. And I think this is the first book ever that I've read where I got teary-eyed while reading something. But that is it for me. That's everything that happened to me in the month of October. Let me know what's going on in your world. What did you make in Legion Remix? What are your thoughts on Remix in general? Are there any other games that you're playing? I know that Battlefield 6 recently came out. I think COD 7 or whatever is coming out soon. Whether it's in-game or out of it, let me know anything that's going on in your world. If you missed it a couple of weeks ago, I posted a video talking about the 3 mounts that took me the longest to get, and there's just some fun trip to memory lane types of stories that I think every mount collector will probably relate to some extent. So if that sounds interesting, click the video that's on screen now. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you really liked it, consider subscribing because there is more to come. Love you lots. Have a fantastic November. I'll talk to you then.